So who all read, first of all? This is still supposed to be freshman seminar class. Here's poor representation. You should have read, but I'm going to tell you everything you need to know. First things first, who's familiar with the Rodney King beating in 1991 in Los Angeles? What do we know about that? He got beat. But there's reasons behind why he was a victim of police brutality. Just a basic overview of the case. March 3rd, 1991 in LA, police stopped Rodney King for a traffic violation. King was struck over 50 times by police officers after initially resisting police orders. West's essay gives a brief overview of the Rodney King police brutality case. And the beating was reported by an onlooker from a nearby balcony at an apartment complex. And this person tried to distribute it to the LAPD, but they didn't want to see it. They declined his offer, so he sent it to KLA-TV, who would send it to CNN and all the national and international media outlets. And that's how we learned of Rodney King. Who all knows of anybody who's been beaten or has been brutally attacked or assaulted by police officers during a quote-unquote arrest? Do we believe that this actually happened? The thing about the police brutality with Rodney King was that up until this point, it's been nothing new for African-American males in particular to be harassed by white authority figures. Now, before I go on, I don't want this to be some type of hate speech and anti-white speech, but I'm just going to give some historical facts of what has happened in this country. You know, slaves were beaten, correct? You know, it's hard pressed to get you all to do your work, so you know somebody got to do work in the cotton field, right? You got to really kick tail, so to speak. This is nothing new for black males. This is just the first time that the media got a chance to see this and show the whole world and the whole country. If you go back to the Rodney King case, you'll see that he was actually arrested, supposedly stopped, because he was, allegedly, he was high. Police officer said that he had PCP in his system, but it came to find out all he had was marijuana in his system, so they said the PCP made him super duper strong and they had to attack him as such. Basically, it didn't take long for the indictment to come down. As you see on the screen, the indictment and the trial came very quickly. Less than a week after the press got a hold of the tape, all these officers were indicted: Coon, Powell, Casino, and a guy named Wynn. They were charged with excessive force. A year later, the trial was in April of 1992, and of course, there was a non-guilty verdict or a not guilty verdict for 3 of the officers, and then there was kind of like a hung jury on the 4th officer. President Bush, who I wouldn't necessarily say we definitely know the first Bush, I wouldn't say he was pro-black or a civil rights activist, but even he at the time said that he couldn't believe that it was a not guilty verdict based upon what he saw on screen. The aftermath is what I really want to deal with. Cornel West deals with a lot of causes of this and the effects of the Rodney King beating. Who would think that Rodney King is a hero? Would we put him a hero in black history? Some people say yes, some people say no. Keep that thought, because when we go through Q&A and discussions and comments, you can add that. Let's just say he was a metaphor for black America, okay? The aftermath of the riots was terrible. The riots lasted roughly 6 days. There were 53 dead, 2,300 injured, over 4,000 arrests, and $200 million in damages in basically the all-black neighborhoods, correct? We rioted in our own neighborhoods, including our own black-owned stores to other minority-owned stores, as far as Middle Eastern and Korean stores. The major issues behind the Rodney King trial was definitely socio-political and economic discontent in black neighborhoods. Rodney serves as a metaphor for the black male stereotypes. When I say stereotypes, what do we think about when you think about the normal black male? What is a stereotype, first of all? I'm hearing a stereotype. A stereotype is something that you think of somebody without knowing, correct? Yeah. Okay, so when we think of black males, now Rodney King was like 6'4", 250. What would we think of, what would be the stereotype for that type of black man? I'm hearing angry, what else? Somebody said stupid, he's probably just got out of jail, on his way to jail, what else? Sells drugs, anything else? Abusive, anything else? Plenty of kids? Aggressive, right? These are stereotypes that have persisted in black culture since we've been here since 1697. I probably put that down. Since our arrival in the United States in 1697, very long time ago, there has always been stereotypes of the black male. Now, Rodney in particular, I already said he's a symbol of that black male aggression, we would say that. But he also represents the inequalities of the black male and the black American as a whole. When you think of the black male stereotype, we also have to counter that with, are there black female stereotypes?
Yeah.
Fellas, what do we think? What are some of these stereotypes of black women?
Ghetto.
I'm hearing fast, freaks, ghetto. What else? In essence, all the stereotypes. In essence, hold up. In essence, all the stereotypes about black people are more than likely what? Negative. Why is this?
That's how we live.
One moment, everybody, listen up. If you raise your hands, because we want to do this in a civil manner. Effinger, you said what? Black folks are different, but does it have to be a negative difference? We keep proving the stereotype's true, correct? You think so? Any other comments? Over here. Okay, now we've seen what we said, the stereotypes in essence, it's always a violent, a negative, or a criminal element. But is there a reason behind this criminality and this behavior? Raise your hand so I can count on you. Yes, ma'am. Is what? Okay. Well,
I ain't really like seeing like a whole bunch of positive influences until like Obama. I don't even think he really played it.
And I'm gonna touch on that. Basically, I answered this question for us. I gave my perception. Why the uproar, violence, and discontent? Why did we have this after the LA riots? First of all, we understand that entire LA riot, you look at murders, you look at the criminal activity. I believe it was a metaphor for African American struggle for social, political, economical, and legal equality from an objective standpoint. In essence, this was the way for us to lash out against the system. We all saw that videotape, or the little bit you saw. It doesn't really matter what you were arrested for. He didn't have to endure that, correct? Right. Okay. Now with that, the reaction to the verdict and the public disregard for black American societal place in the United States is what made these people in Los Angeles get in an uproar. Now you got to know the history of West Coast America. Every Negro in the United States of America has origins in the South, first of all. When you look at great migrations of the late 19th century, the 1920s and 1930s, people went from all the southern states to whether it was Chicago's, whether it was to New York's, whether it was all the way out to LA. Now in Los Angeles, the Black Panthers actually had to, they derived and created because they were trying to get protection against the police brutality that existed in Oakland, California. And out of the Black Panthers came the Crips and the Bloods. Street gangs were actually to protect your neighborhood not only from outside criminal activity, but from police. So Los Angeles has always been a place of revolution, or California in general, of revolt. So it's not a shock that when they heard this not guilty, that they rioted in the streets. Now, also there was an individualized and group frustration because of the aforementioned. How would you feel if Rodney King was your dad or your uncle? Regardless of whether he was speeding and led the police on a high-speed chase, if cops are supposed to be to protect and serve and to stop crime, they shouldn't be doing what? They are part of that crime, right? You know, if that's the case, we might as well shoot, shoot on sight, right? As soon as you see a murderer, don't arrest him, shoot him. But why did this black man have to endure this? Okay, he was caught, he was tased, he was beat with batons. It was overkill, correct? Now, America was divided because there are some black Americans and some white Americans that believe he deserved this, because the first thing we say is, what was he should have done? He shouldn't have ran from police. You know, everybody know don't run from police, right? They might do anything to you, correct? Rodney King put him on a high-speed chase. So maybe he was deserving of it. And plus, let's go with the stereotype that you all just gave me about black males. How did they know he wasn't a thug? Right? They were trying to protect themselves. Of course, 4 cops. It definitely would take four white police officers to beat on a big black man, wouldn't it? I can't move by myself, right? You know, I gotta have a taser. I gotta have some help. I gotta do it 53 times, correct? He needs this. Plus he's high on PCP, right? Now, what I want to focus on, because Cornel West really just gives a whole, he's a sociologist, right? So he gives a whole lot of problems with society and tells what the societal ills are and what causes and the effects thereof. But the biggest effect that I had an epiphany last night, that the effect of the LA riots was actually, in my opinion, it was gangster rap. If you ask me, when I was growing up, the term gangster rap came out right around that time. And nowadays, I guess gangster rap would be anybody that's thugging, right? We would say Gucci, right? Might be considered gangster rap, I guess. Who else? Body, Flame, Waka Flocka Flame. Who else? All these characters, right? Now, what does the gangster rap of now, what does it actually tell us? Like, what's the whole content? One at a time, I'm hearing drugs, alcohol, sex, basically everything derogatory, correct? First, gangster rap, actually probably what we would call gangster rap today, evolved from really the late 80s. But it was bubbling up out on the West Coast. If you look at rappers in New York, and for the most part all rappers around the country, they were pretty much just trying to get the party started and hyped, and it really wasn't a whole lot of revolutionary content. But in the late 80s, you had Public Enemy, who really came to the forefront and really had something to say about what was happening to black Americans. Because what happens when the Rodney King video really helped us, because this was going on all your major chocolate cities, all your metropolis, whether it's Houston, Dallas, Memphis, Tennessee, New York City, Chicago. This was happening all over the country, but we didn't really know it. It's kind of like a secret. You know, my mama beat my dad, yours does too. You know, anything could be going on. I don't want to tell nobody what's going on in my home, but they know what's happening. So this really told the whole truth of what was going on to all black Americans. Now, the emergence of gangster rap was you started having Ice-T, Ice Cube, the Lynch Mob, Tupac Shakur. They started to write raps that really combated the police. There were songs called F the Police, right? NWA, Niggas with Attitude. Their whole thing was to be antithetical or the exact opposite of the police. They were telling their communities to stand up, don't let police mistreat you. Now, somewhere in that, it became cool to enjoy gangster rap. Now, if you look at gangster rap, my definition of it is basically an unadulterated freedom of rhetoric, right? Everybody that takes English or teacher should be teaching you this. I hope they are. If not, I will. Basically, you got to have a freedom of speech through a poetic tone that is recited over angry and dark, yet soulful type of beats. Okay, it had a message. All of our gangster rappers, even from the late 80s, early 90s to now, they happen to look different from the normal American, right, or black American. Anything to look different. And it's kind of a form of Afrocentrism, which HBCUs are pretty much, that's what we exist for. Somehow you have to have individuality, your own person, and not fit into what would normally be the American mold for you. Now the difference between the gangster rap movement, which created the hip-hop generation, is that it started to speak for the, I call it the civil rights babies. Most of your parents or grandparents, probably y'all's grandparents, were part of the civil rights struggle. My parents were. Some of your parents were born out of that struggle. So they became the civil rights babies where the message was different. No offense to the civil rights movement, but a lot of African Americans consider since 1697 we were subordinated and dehumanized and treated like 3/4 human beings, that we kind of had to live up to what white people or what white America considered to be human. So you had, when my father was in high school, they wore suits to high school, you know. Nobody had afros and braids and dreads and twists, none of that. They weren't really showing their Afrocentrism because they were assimilating, which in your sociology and history courses, assimilation just means trying to fit in and not cause any waves. But gangster rap did the exact opposite, right? People will say, well, it's so vulgar and it's misogynistic, all they do is disrespect women and what have you. But it was a voice for this new generation. I'm Generation X. Generation X is basically anybody born from 1960 to 1979. All of you guys in here, for the most part, are probably Generation Y, or they call y'all millennial babies because y'all were born after 1980. Now, we have more of a